just shoot it.
Start streaming. I guess we're streaming. Sign into chat. Okay. Put that. Which one was it? Your Jesse.
Oh, it's Golf Era 2023.
It's Jesse at Gulf War 2023.
You have to do that. Are we on right now?
Yeah,
Are we
we're
live?
on. We
We're
should
live,
be.
huh?
We should be live. We should be streaming.
If
So,
we're live right
but
now, I
but
want to
we can't.
welcome everyone.
We got to be able to sign into chat. Where's your paperwork?
All right. Okay. So,
Type your here real quick. Type your email in there.
okay,
That's
go ahead, Sean.
Gunny. Um, Jesse Almanza and Charles Prentice, United States Air Force. That's what the shirt says. I've got it mirrored, so you have to put a mirror up to the mirror so it reads backwards. But that way he's on the right side, this right side of the screen like he's supposed to be, and um,
We're trying to get this thing rolling right here, but for some reason, we just can't get it going. But anyway, we're here today. Welcome everyone. We're trying to get the chat going so we can hear from some of you in case you guys want to tune in with us. But we'll go ahead and do it a little bit slowly here.
and you can't remember the password. So I don't know. If we won't be able to see you on chat.
All right, but go ahead and tune in.
So go ahead and chat.
Yeah,
Hopefully this is working. This is the first time trying to do it with a totally different system. I'm working out the bugs. I have
yeah.
PC set up at home where I'm trying different things. I have yet to broadcast anything from my home thing, but just a point that I have to tell you real quick, Jesse. Not next week, but the week after, I have an appointment, so you're going to have to do this by yourself.
I'm gonna bring somebody in to
Okay,
try to help us
that'll work. That's what you're going to have to do. But
dance through this process.
I'm going to be live somewhere else.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Sorry for the inconvenience of our technical difficulties going on today, but we actually started doing this almost 45 minutes ago, and here we are. Uh, thing about passwords is when you start gathering, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when you start thinking about passwords for everything that you have, it's terrible because you can have what half a dozen to a dozen passwords on many different things, and then when you try to figure out which one is what, then you don't remember. The easiest way out is to go ahead and reset it. But if you want to reset it all the time, it's a hassle.
The
But
easiest thing is write it down,
yeah.
get you a notepad and write it down. And then it's when you get older remembering where you put the notepad
Oh
becomes
yeah.
becomes the thing. And
Yeah.
and and which is a good lead into what we're talking about today is because we're going to talk about healthcare and that was the topic I believe that you wanted to talk about. But before we get started with that, just know that we are not part of the VA healthcare system. That's not who we are. We're independent of them. Though they're supposed to be working for us, but we don't work for them. So all the stuff that we do is
It's
through
on us. It's
stuff
on
that
us.
stuff that Jesse knows and he tells me about.
The only thing I couldn't tell you about Charles this morning was what the password was. So, but
No.
anyway, that's all right because we're here again. That was a disclaimer. We don't work for the VA in any way, shape, or form. No, do we have any affiliation with them? We are independent. We have a lot of information that we feel that we need to process through individuals or groups. But this particular channel is the military veteran family channel, which is inclusive with everybody, not just the veteran. But we cover the family members as well as the aunts, uncles, mother, father, brothers, sisters, because in our opinion, and obviously in yours as well, if you really think about it, we are a family. It's a
Mm-hmm.
huge family. The veteran family is huge, and we want to talk a lot about that because a lot of family members out there aren't aware of how they can help and assist veterans along the way when they need it. And I think that if we bring up some subject matters and some topics that you can kind of we can plant a seed on you, and then you can do your research and stuff. You can probably help your veteran friend, brother, mother, father, sister, aunt, uncle, whomever, with some of these things that they may not be aware of. Because believe it or not, a lot of veterans are not aware of these kind of things. We mentioned very briefly that there are a lot of veterans throughout the United States, and you are not alone out there. And I know we've covered a couple of places last time when we spoke, but I just want to throw a few more out there as we move along with this. So we covered Texas, we covered California, and we covered Florida, meaning that those are the states that have the most amount of veterans that live in them. And when I say most amount of veterans, I'm talking a million plus. So that's a lot of veterans that live in those three states and stuff. You know, when we talk about my state, North Carolina, we have 654,400 veterans that live in my state. Arizona, 491, 239,000. If you're in Nebraska, you got 100, you're accompanied by 113,000 veterans out there. If you're in Wisconsin, 319. Somewhere along the line, what we're going to do is we're going to post I have it right here. It's an actual map. Maybe you can see it right in there. We're going to post this once we figure out what we're doing. We're gonna post this so you can actually see the numbers and stuff. Or actually you can Google it yourself. I mean, this is what I do is I get on the computer and I say, how many veterans are in the state of Wyoming? And boom, voila. Let me see. I'll tell you how many that is if I can find the state of Wyoming here. Um, I can't find the state of Wyoming. It's somewhere in the United States, but they have a lot. 44,403 veterans in Wyoming, if you want to know about that. But anyway, part of what we discuss here is awareness of who we are first and foremost. We're veterans of the United States Armed Forces, previous serving in the military, and we have a lot of things that we don't know. I tell you a little bit more about me as I go along, like I said before, of my duty stations and where I have been, and going through hopefully cover my 23 years of service here. I've been to Okinawa. I've been to, gosh, I've been deployed to many places. And the bottom line is that every place that you go, a lot of people say, "Oh, you visited all these places in the world and stuff. How was it?" Well, I really don't know how it was. We didn't really visit. We didn't go sightseeing or touring or anything of that nature. We just went because we had maneuvers and we had things to do. When we talk about going across the Pacific and then landing in the beach of Japan or Okinawa. And a lot of you can relate to this when you're in your training spots. Back home they're thinking, oh yeah, he's in Hawaii. Oh yeah, he went to Japan. Oh yeah, he's coming back from Korea and stuff. But you really didn't see any of those places, to be honest with you. I think what it almost amounts to is that if there was an opportunity later on in life to go back and visit some of these places, then we would have definitely jump on it and get it. And some of these places that a lot of us went to, which you should be talking to your kids about and stuff, you don't want to go to. Third world countries, people, the way they live, and all that other good stuff. It's just not a good place to go. We didn't go by choice, of course, because we went because we were following orders and we
Jesse,
got orders.
we
And went.
didn't land on any beaches.
Yeah,
You got to remember, I'm Air Force. We landed
yeah. Well, he flew over. They did.
on the
Flew
flight
over.
line,
Yeah,
and we
fly
got in vehicles. And, it wasn't take the beach and take that hill.
over. It wasn't
And then we
any.
went to a hotel where,
It wasn't
like
any
I
of that.
said, Jesse was in a tent. If they were allowed to, Marines were allowed to have tent and had rocks for pillows. I didn't do any of that.
I'm sorry that I can't get to this chat right now because unfortunately there's a little four-digit number that I can't remember what it is. But if I could remember what it is, I would go ahead and punch it in as soon as possible. But I really would like to hear from a lot of you or some of you as to, your experiences in the military, where you went to, what kind of exotic places you visited, and what it was like for you, because you may not have talked about it in many 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 years, but you may remember right now that maybe it's something that you want to start really talking about. I mean, I know we've gone through some stuff that we don't want to discuss, and that's obvious. I mean, we all have done that, and we're human beings. But there's many other things that we can learn by it. We can reflect on it. We can say, hey, if it wasn't built for being in the military, I wouldn't have gone to Saudi Arabia or Istanbul, Turkey, or Okinawa, Japan, or going down to the Philippine Islands or stuff like that. You
Well,
wouldn't be
that's
talking about that.
that, like you were talking about. Usually, veterans don't talk to their family about it, but every veteran I've run across, when you run across another veteran, you're talking about, hey, we did this. You remember this? Did you guys do this? You know, what was your occupation when you were in? We call it call it MOS, and then of course Air Force is AFSC. Our specialty code. So each one of us had a job, and it's funny you don't talk, like I said, you don't talk to your actual family usually about it,
Yeah.
especially if you've been deployed somewhere, but your military buddies. So there's a comment section in YouTube. Comment. we we'll try to look through the comments and get back to every one of you, maybe discuss something that you said. If you want to shoot Jesse an email, um, then we can
Go
turn
for it.
around, and if you want us to tell your story, let us know.
Yeah,
You
if you
know,
want to
not
join us in the live
surprise and
broadcast
scare.
here, give us a chat or give us a call or holler at us or whatever the term is nowadays. Holla. But anyway, yeah, we're here to talk about things. We're here to put things out on the table here, and just kind of discuss them a little bit here and there. But in the past couple of this is what'll be our fourth one already. I think we're doing a little bit more of improvement. I'd like to hear about that later on from some of you that have actually seen some of our broadcasting here.
Well, go back
Uh,
and look at them if you haven't
yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah. Go
them.
back and look at
Start
them.
with number one. You don't have a whole bunch of them that you have to go through. Number one's the shortest one.
And start
So
with
go
number
back to
one.
that.
Yeah, and I think last week, we talked about the amount of veterans, and we just kind of give you a number of some of the veterans that live in some of the states. But when you're talking about veteran population, we're talking, between 2023 and 2024, it's been estimated that there's anywhere between 5.8 million to 17.5 million military veterans currently today as we speak. So that's a big population. We have a lot of power if we were to get all of these veterans together. Can you imagine if we were all in sync as to how we can move things and talk about things and things that would benefit not only us but our families as well? And as we're going to talk about some of these things here in a minute, it's important to understand that when you join the military, one of the promises, and you don't have to take my word for it, you can look at Congress or talk to Congress or whatever, and you can ask them the question, is that what they offer us when we sign that dotted line and say we were going to be in and we're going to serve our country, what they proposed, well, not proposed, they told us that they were offering us is continuous health care, continuous coverage, continuous make sure that we are okay for the rest of our lives. And they would make the ability for us to be able uh, to seek that out, to be able to like go into the healthcare systems and to go to the doctors and to visit and get medications. And to some extent, there are copay costs to some veterans, but other veterans that have been rated at a certain percentage for what is called or considered service connection. Sometimes those prescription costs, copays don't exist. It's free of cost. It helps us. When I was working in corporate America after I got out of the military, I had three jobs. I'm sure some of you can relate to this. I was working like like a dog. You lose a lot of benefits coming out when you retire. You don't realize how much money goes out the window. And this whole time I'd been working out there in the corporate America world, they always put you into a package deal when they hire you, and they say, hey, you've got these benefits, you've got health benefits, you got medical, you got dental, and all that. And we don't know any better because nobody has told us that we could have been using the VA system all along. And instead of me paying all these co-payments and so on and so on, I could have been utilizing those services. So in my case, I'm retired, so I got services. I talked to a lot of veterans that are not retired that went to a certain time frame and then they were out, and then they don't have retirement benefits, medical benefits to the point to where, they can continue whatever or forever. but they still have medical benefits health wise if you go through the VA system. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking about how many people are actually in in the in the system. Let's talk about the Veterans Administration right now. The appropriated budget, when you talk about money, the appropriated budget for 2026, I believe, is 445 billion dollars. Okay. It's a pretty good chunk of change, right? You know, I get it. They have all of these medical centers, they have all these facilities, all these doctors, all these outpatient sites, and so on and so on. But $445 billion is a lot of money for the Veterans Administration. And you got to consider the fact that they have to pay other costs. They have to pay upkeeping, maintenance. You know, they got buildings. I mean, I get it. I mean, I get it. But it's not going to be 445 billion dollars. So that means that we have to take advantage of what
Yeah.
we have coming to us, you
Yeah.
know, our medical services, our visiting doctors, and so on. And anyone that's a veteran can go enroll in services right now. You should be able to just go to the VA facility, maybe even apply online and go. We'll bring another segment with other medical gurus who know the process that can give you those steps and stuff that you can take. But I say this because there's a lot of veterans out there that are not enrolled in medical services.
Well, you
Wh-
discussed yourself that when you got out of the military, you didn't enroll.
No, I didn't
You,
enroll. Didn't.
and I think nowadays they're telling some of these youngsters who are getting out. We can call them youngsters because they're younger than we are,
Yeah, youngsters.
but but they're telling them. Mine is because I had an illness before I got out. I was already enrolled in the system, but they don't tell you all the different benefits that you can receive. You know,
No.
it's here you're at 10%, here you're at 20%, whatever. You know, my percentage back then was, I think, 30%. Here you're at 30%, and yeah, we've got a little bit of money that you'll get from it. Um, but that's it. You
Yeah.
know, it
Well, you still
wasn't
got to
okay.
live. You still got to
You
live.
go to a different state, like mine is. You know, Jesse talked about when he got out. He was in San Diego. I was in Marysville, Yuba City, Northern California when I got out and decided I was moving back to North Carolina. Nobody said, okay, well, yeah, you know, make sure you get connected to the VA system that's here and where I'm supposed to get connected to the VA system.
Yeah. I think if you can reflect back to when before you got out of the military, right? I'm talking a couple of weeks before, they always send you to this TAP class, this TAP class. And, you know, they talk about what's, you know, moving forward, what to expect out there, what to do. They tell you to work on your resume and so on and so on. And, you know, they try to hype you up. They prepare you, like they say in their words, get you ready for the workforce that you're coming out here. But, you know, let me tell you something what happened to me. After 23 years of service, dedicated to my Marine Corps, uh, never been late, always squared away, always did what I was going to do. Got out there in corporate America thinking I would get the first job that approached me and stuff. And you know what they told me? You don't meet the qualifying criteria for the job description you're applying for. And I'm like, what do we do? What have we done in the military? Think about that. We've done so many things in the military. Our resume should be busting out the seams by the time you get out, if you can put it in perspective, of course. But they didn't tell, you know, I first and foremost, I really didn't want to stick around those TAP classes. In my mind, I'm out of here. It was time to go. It was time to move. My time was over with. I gotta go. So whatever they gave me, whatever information they gave me, it landed, but it did stay there. It took off again because I don't remember a lot of that stuff. And a lot of us, our priorities is to get together what's ahead of us, what we're going to plan, our families, what are we going to do, what kind of jobs we're going to have, and so on. And we don't remember all of these things. And it's really bad because there's a lot of veterans that are in areas of the United States that don't get any type of information about anything. It's just like you get out of the military and you're like, boom, there's nobody else around you. You don't have no support systems. You don't have anybody to plant a seed and tell you you ought to do this and you should do that and so on, because nobody really knows. I mean, it took me 22 years by the time I realized that I could file a claim for service connections. 20 some odd years. That's a long time after being out of the military, which goes back to you in general. You too. Doesn't matter how long you've been out. You could be in your 90s right now, World War II veteran, and you can still apply for services and stuff if you have a service connection, and which we'll be talking a bit about that as well later on.
Yep, I got proof of that one. My father spent 26 years in the Air Force. Got out with he had TRICARE for life, and that's what he would tell us. I said, told him, I said, "Are you in the VA system?" He says, "I got TRICARE for life. I don't need it." And my sister turned around and was trying to get him hearing aids, and the TRICARE for life only paid for part of it. And we turned around and found out that he could get everything done because it's service connected. It's 100. He's 100%. You know, he had other issues, and we finally got him in the VA system, and he was in his 80s, late 80s, almost 90 years old when we
Oh,
got him into the VA system. And after they did all the paperwork and they looked at him and they were, yeah, most of this stuff, because he's a Vietnam vet, um, comes from your time in service and from
yeah,
being at Vietnam. You're 100%.
yeah,
And he got hearing aids, and the VA
yeah.
takes care of all that stuff now. But that's up to you.
Yeah, and we say these things because maybe maybe you're the family member of that veteran that hasn't visited, a healthcare facility. Maybe you're trying to help him or her out in some way, shape, or form to maybe give them a better quality of life because they're spending all their money in out of their pockets to buy prescriptions or maybe get an apparatus that they may need to get around in when they can actually go and enroll in the VA health services and start getting these kind of things. And maybe later on in the future, it may be a determination factor that it may be considered that, they have a service connection, which in terms will turn out to be a lot better because it'll help them out a lot more. So if you're out there and you have a service member in your family that is a veteran and you don't know how to help him, don't know what direction to go and stuff, you can always the key thing to remember is that they're veterans, they served in the military, and if you answered those questions, yes, yes, then somewhere along the line they're going to meet some sort of service help. It's gonna happen with them. It's shameful to say right now that even though we said that we have 15 to 17 million veterans in the United States right now, approximately about 9 to 9.2 million veterans currently are enrolled in VA health services. So we're talking 9 million only enrolled out of potential 17 million out there. We're talking 99, we're talking half of the veterans that are out there right now are not even enrolled in any type of services in any way, shape, or form. And, it's sad because who knows, all you have to do is ask a question and then start getting information. Now, you can contact us and we can make appropriate referrals for you if we need to, depending on where you're at. I've had calls I'm in North Carolina right now, but I've had calls from California, from North Carolina itself, and not in my area, but out of my area, Virginia, from Texas, Florida, and we can help figure out how we can connect you to those people that you may need to follow up on. If you happen to be a spouse of a veteran that's in trouble and needs medical attention, and trust me, I have talked to a lot of spouses right now whom unfortunately are now widows that don't know that they too have some sort of benefits that they could have applied for themselves so they could get some sort of compensation later on. But if you don't know who to ask or how to approach these kind of things, days are going to go by, and before you know it, years have gone by, and before you know it, you're going to be left out of whatever. It's
Well, you're our numbers guy, Jesse, and I guarantee you probably have the numbers on this. You said 9 million are enrolled. Now, that's enrolled. How about how many of those 9 million are actually using
ah, very
their
good
services?
question. Well, when you're talking about that many enrollments in there, you're also talking about individuals that are maybe 6.5 million that are not enrolled in services. Well, wait a minute. Let me go back up here. When we're talking about approximately people that are enrolled, we're talking 9 million plus that are actively enrolled. Out of those 9 millions, there's only like around 6.8 million of them that are doing something for a VA,
So you're talking there's 3 million or more that are enrolled in the VA
but
system,
are not
but are not
pursuing.
actually using the
They're
VA
not
system.
pursuing anything. No.
So those that will round it up to 500 billion dollars that the VA is using, and we talk about okay, well, yeah, that some of these buildings are already built, and they're looking at expanding in this area. If you've been around here, we put a nice new place in Kernersville. They're always working on the one in Salisbury, but still, all that money is not going to buildings and people who are working there. A lot of that money is going to you guys, or supposed to be going to you. But you got 6.8 to maybe 7 that are
They're enrolled,
actually
but they're
using it,
yeah,
that
yeah,
are actually using it.
that
So you
yeah.
got
So you got
three,
another
three,
couple million
you got
more
another couple
there
million who are not
that are not. You're
using.
enrolled, but you're not utilizing the services, and that's kind of like, you know,
And they don't tell you that. They
yeah.
don't tell you, hey, this is
They're
available
not
to
going to
you.
invite you. No, they're not going to send you an. They're not going to send you anything unless you owe them money. If you owe them back pay or something, they're gonna contact you immediately. But they're not gonna say, "Hey, oh, hey, by the way, Joe, did you know that you have $100,000 coming to you because you didn't file 5 years ago?" They're not gonna pay any of that.
That's like
There's no
you get
way. There's no
into,
way. No
like with
way.
me, being an amputee, clothing allowance, because I use a wheelchair and prosthetics, um, rub on clothes, and they don't say, hey, look, you're authorized clothing allowance. And then back when I first figured it out, or somebody actually told me about it, it was another veteran that said, hey, are you taking your clothing allowance? I thought it was a one-time deal. He says, no, you file every year.
Mm,
He says some people, depending on the level, it was twice a year. Yeah, and it wasn't until recently that they changed it to the fact that you no longer have to refile, and it was refile every year, and you had to file before, I think it was August or October, and if you didn't, you missed out on that year. And there
yeah.
were several years that it was like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't file
Use
because
it
I
or
didn't
lose
know
it.
about it. So
Use it or lose
that's
it.
money that stays in the system. That is belongs to other veterans that, like I said, over 2 million, 3 million who are you're signed up, but you're not doing anything.
Yeah, and when we talk about veterans having this benefit of medical services and stuff, there are veterans out there that have a certain percentage of ratings. Ratings mean that they have a service connection, they've applied for it, and they're getting monetary compensation for it. But not only at some point in time do the veterans qualify for this compensation or medical benefits, so do the families as well too.
Mhm.
So it behoove us to make sure that if your veteran is an individual that rates compensation, depending on what the capacity is, it's very possible that that compensation could also flow into the family as well, the spouse, the son, the daughter, and in some cases, grandma and grandpa, if they happen to be living with you. There's things that you can do research on to give you the better edge to try to help because I mean everybody is helping a veteran, but if the veteran is not getting any information as to how he can help himself, there's no way in the world you're going to know. I can attest to that because I've worked with individuals that have been the VA has been taking care of them, and they go to the house and they visit them and stuff, and they provide the healthcare side of the house, but in no way, shape, or form did they give them any information about any additional benefits that they could potentially get, like monetary compensation for ratings and so on. They give them the proper health care that they need. The VA provides that for them, but they don't give them any additional information. It's just like one side doesn't talk to the other, and you've heard that those phrases before. It's just not they just don't talk to each other. So you have to be able to probe and get that information from somebody. Let's talk about a little bit about our veteran female veterans out there. Currently, we have about 2.1 million female veterans out there throughout the United States, and over a million. Understand that over 1 million female veterans are not enrolled in services. And I believe that that's something that's outrageous. I think every female veteran that have served their country should be enrolled in some way, shape, or form. Do you have to use the VA if you get enrolled? Well, you don't really have to. It doesn't become a requirement for you to go to the VA and stuff. You do have a primary that's assigned to you. You do have your medical uh, medication and all that they'll provide for you. But it's like a go-to place to where if you get sick, you can go to if you happen to be in the hospital. And like I was saying earlier, many people that I know paid so much money for insurance through their companies or organizations when they could have been utilizing the VA services
Mm.
as well to save up on that money and use it elsewhere and stuff. So, if you're talking about female veterans, over 1 million have not enrolled. Over the 2.1 million that are currently in the United States right now, over 1 million of them have not enrolled in services at all in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's something that maybe as a female veteran that, all of us encounter injuries or inquire things that we need to be taken care of as well too. And I think that there should be more outreach. Veterans Administration, I'm going to tell you that they're good. I'm not knocking them in any way, shape, or form. I think that the Veterans Administration try as much as helpful as they can be by putting all the information on their website because everything that I'm telling you, you can go to the website and find out. So they do have outlined all this information of what you can get. The problem is that when you try to identify something that you need, it keeps shooting you off this other directions and stuff. And I don't know why that happens, but it gets too convoluted that many people just say, "The heck with it. I'm not going to put up with it. Forget it. It's too complicated. I can't do it and stuff." But you know, we in some way, shape, or form become our own attorneys. I say attorneys because attorneys do what attorneys do. They look for evidence, they look for information, they build a case, they figure out what they can do, and once they get everything that they need, then they go in for the kill. Then they go and say, "This is what I've got. This is what I need." So if you do your research on the stuff that you need to do, become your own attorney because even after you file a claim for compensation, you're still going to have to do all the research anyway.
Right.
Period. I mean, there's
Well, I
not.
mean, that's just the thing is you have to advocate for yourself. If you're not your own advocate, and most things, you know, people go, well, they said this. Most of it breaks down to a very simple phrase, and that is quality of life.
Quality. That's it. Quality of life.
And if you're not, you yourself are not fighting for your own quality of life, you can't expect somebody else to do it for you. And that becomes the thing. As I look at it, is probably one of the reasons why so many people are not enrolled is we look at it and we're sort of prideful about it, or we go, well, I'm not in that bad a shape now. But as you get older, there are things that might have you're not thinking about
Yeah.
something that happened while you were in.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I took that fall. Um, you know,
30 years ago,
yeah,
I hit my head. Now I got migraine headaches.
yeah, and
Service connection.
there's a lot of stuff that you if you're watch the news at any point in time lately, it's they go, well, yeah, burn pits. Um, when we came back from Desert Storm originally, it was Gulf War syndrome because it was all in our heads. And now
Yeah.
they've realized that there was a lot of stuff that gets into that sand that shifts around and
Oh
drifts
yeah. Oh yeah.
and now they've
Yeah.
realized that there are infections and everything else. But if you're not, you're going, well, somebody else needs this more than me.
Yeah.
That's Jesse brought it up at the beginning. When you signed up, the United States government said, we will take care of you after you get out. Hold them to that. Don't go, well, I don't need it because I'm
Yeah.
not that bad off. And like I said, now, you don't know at what point in time you might not be
Yeah.
in good
Never know.
condition.
Never know.
Because when I
Never
got
know.
out of the military, I had both legs. I was not a bilateral amputee. But when I got out, my ankles were deteriorating. I got out with advanced degenerative joint disease and severe arthritis in both ankles. And I had the doctors at the VA and the doctors in the military say, yeah, it won't be too long, maybe 20, 30, 40 years. Maybe you'll make it into your 80s and 90s, and but you're going to have problems with your ankles.
Yeah.
Well, that time came a lot sooner
Yeah.
than I anticipated for. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was in the VA system, I don't know how much money I would have spent
Yeah.
outside
Outside of there.
trying to
Yeah.
trying to get something done. And because I know prosthetics alone, you're talking thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah, it's something, if you're listening right now and you have a family member or a veteran friend or whatever, that may not have been reaching out to the Veterans Administration. Just, I mean, if anything else, just go in there and get yourself an evaluation, an annual exam or something, because every year you have to do that anyway. You have to figure out what's same. You do the same thing to your cars. You got to take them in for an oil change. You got to clean them up. You got to lube them up. You even have to wash them every now and again. Our bodies are the same way. We have to take care of them because we only have one, and that's all there is to it. And lo and behold, that you start losing parts of your body. Charles has both legs gone, and you'll never know where it's going to take you from one year to the next, or from 1 month to the next. Things happen really, really fast. So get your family members to understand and to know that they have that benefit. And like I said, in many cases, once they get identified and they start getting compensation, it flows over to the family as well too. The family gets compensated just like the veteran does too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that because compensation for family members comes in a wide variety that you may not even know about and stuff. But we'll discuss that in a later time. But also remember too that I've mentioned this before in our previous broadcasting, is that when you joined the military, you were at 100%. They would not have let you into service if you were if you were less than that. If something was wrong with you, even if you had headaches or if you had toothaches or whatever, anything that you had medical wise, they would not have let you in the military. So you came in at 100% to begin with. And if you left the military shortly thereafter, even if it was a day or two in boot camp, because something happens to you, you ought to obviously obtain a service connection that you can claim for later on in the future if you have not already looked into that, because that kind of stuff can happen. VA identifies as a service connection being an illness or an injury that was caused by or got worse while after you have served in the military. So something like that means that you didn't have it, you picked it up along the way, and maybe 20, 30 years later, even 40, even 50 years later, you're saying that could have been as a result of a service connection back in the days. And then you can put a claim in on it, and you can still potentially high potential that you could get compensated for that. And a lot of people miss out on that because they don't think that they can do that. And I'll tell you the very simple way to do it is that if you want to do something like that, if you feel that you've got something that happened to you and you want to just evaluate or identify it, just do what we call an intent to file through the VA. Intent to file is very simple. It's all you need to do is call a number. It's 1-800-827-1000. You'll talk to a live person. They'll ask you your information. They'll give you your social security number. They'll ask you for your social security because it's a government agency where you're actually saying, hey, look, I need to file an intent to file because I believe I have a service connection injury. Very simple. You don't have to go into details. They're not going to ask you any questions. They're going to acknowledge that, and they're going to send you a letter acknowledging that you put an intent to file. And let's say today, tomorrow, you don't have the information you need. Don't worry about it because the government, like I said earlier, the VA does a good job in helping people out and stuff, but sometimes they don't tell you these things. They'll give you 365 days to file a claim. Okay, 300. So you got a whole year to file a claim to figure out whether or not. And then this whole time you're again going back to the attorney thing. You're preparing your case. You're pulling out information. You're looking for things that may have happened to you while you were in. You're looking for medical records, service records. You're looking for all these things to try to connect this together, connect the lines because you've got to have a service connection. And once you've identified you connect the lines, then you adequately prepare a claim to file. And 365 days is a long time for somebody to get themselves situated and figure out whether or not. It's not, it's going to be a benefit to you because even if they don't identify that you have a legitimate file or legitimate claim, let's say it took them 6 months to figure it out. Whatever day that you file that intend to file, they're going to back pay you if you earned it. If you have any service connections, they're going to back pay you from the day that you put your intent to file. And that's already a plus because that's already something that's going to help you out without you even knowing it and stuff. You know, you can utilize if you want to, they have veteran service. There's what they call VSOs. There's a veteran service organization and there's veteran service officers or veteran service representatives. That these are the guys and the gals that can help you. The VA has they have them, but most importantly, the people that have it even more are organizations. The representatives from individuals that work like for the VA that are also VFW, uh, American Legions, all these other kind of organizations, you can actually go out there and look. Uh, I I I need to tell you that when you go out and get some help from the VSOs, there's they say the VSOs are accredited. Accredited means that the Veterans Administration authorizes them to help you with whatever they can help you with. They can't tell you, they can't make a determining factor, they can't do anything. All they do is put your paperwork together. But who's going to be doing all, all the footwork is going to be you. So it doesn't matter whether you have a VSO assigned to you or you look for one or whatever. You're still the one who's going to ultimately be doing all the research to pass to them. And they, in turn, fill out the proper documentation, the work, whatever you need and stuff. And they can go ahead and help you out with that. Some of the largest providers that are VSOs is like the American Legion, the VFW, Disabled American Veterans. These guys can help you out if you so desire to do that. Uh, I caution you for one thing because I see this out almost every other day. Somebody asks me about that. It's a POA, Charles. You know what a POA is?
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney. Yeah, power of
That
attorney.
means that when you sign up, you're giving them permission to mess around in your stuff.
That's what it basically amounts to. It sounds kind of funny, but if you really put it in perspective, Charles, here's what's going to happen is that when you talk to one of these accredited providers, they're going to ask you for your information, your social security number, and all that other good stuff. And then they're going to want you to sign a POA, power of attorney. Why do they want you to do that? Well, number one, it's a plus for them. They're helping one veteran, and the more they help, the better off it is going to be for them. But are they going to help you? That's the key thing. And we'll talk about that later on in the future. But when you sign that power of attorney, like Charles just mentioned, that means that you give them the authority to look into all your stuff, receive information from the VA, talk to the VA in your behalf. I mean, they're like your what do they call that? Your designated person in life. Like they're the one that's going to take care of everything for the purposes of that claim.
Right.
Purposes of claim, not for anything else. But someone that's going to be making decisions, someone that's going to be getting information about your stuff. You sign a POA, and you've got to do some very, very slick following up with them once you do that because they can pretty much submit anything uh, that may end up, you know, helping you, yeah, which is a good thing. But because we work in the outside world of the actual Veterans Administration and we talk and see and hear from a lot of veterans, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes they just end up getting the raw end of the deal and they could have been better off doing the stuff on their own, which you definitely can do everything on your own. Again, VA has done a good job in outlining everything. They can assist you. They'll even answer your questions, but they won't file for you, but they can walk you through as much as possible. So the thing to remember of the POA is that once you sign that out, you've already pretty much given power to them to do that. If you feel that something is happening, you're not getting the right direction, you're not getting, you can revoke that POA. You can all POAs from any accredited veteran service organizations or veteran service officers or whoever's working with you. I get frowned upon this when I talk about this to people because why are you telling them to revoke the POA? Well, because it's your business. It's
Yep.
your life. If people are prying into your stuff and you did it because you needed to know things, you needed somebody to help you out, and because they're accredited through the VA, not I've gone through many years in life to know that there's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff. And you got to figure out in your mind whether you want the good stuff or the bad stuff, or you're just gonna see what happens. But it is revocable. You've got to contact the VA. You've got to let them know, hey, look, I had a VA representative or I had a VSO representative from such and such organization. I'd like to get it revoked. You can call that 800 number, 827 1000, 800 827 1000, and you can tell them they'll give you the form that you have to fill out, or they'll talk to you about what your process is going to be, and then you just submit it and get that revoked. Because I believe it or not, and it happened in my case that when I had a BSO and I did a POA, I didn't know that they were still receiving information on my behalf. I didn't know that because anything that the VA sends to me was sent into my VSO as well. And I'm like, why are they having to do anything with this anymore? They didn't. They really weren't in the picture other than sign the form in some cases. But if you catch what I'm talking about, so understand that it is your life and you need to take care of it as much as you can. You need to take care of your fellow mom, brothers, sisters, aunt, uncles if they happen to be veterans. And if you're someone that does not you do not think that you have enough information to maybe help somebody out, you can always, like I said, reach out to us. Send us a comment. Unfortunately, we were not able to get this chat thing going today, but next time that we do this, we will be able to put it out so we can kind of uh,
That's if we're actually streaming
yeah, yeah,
live.
yeah.
This is the first time trying a different platform tied into Facebook or YouTube. So hopefully I've got this set up correctly.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started thinking about going through doing this channel here, and I did it for many reasons. Number one, I am a retired Marine. I have a lot to give to the community. I have a lot to give to people. I know I talk to many people about many different things, but in many cases, I can't help them because I don't have that immediate um credential per se to say this is what you can do and stuff or whatever. But I can tell them what I know, what I've heard, what I've talked to veterans about, and this is what it's about. Mainly is taking care of each other, basically. It's what I know that I can pass on. And, because if I tell one person and that one person gets it right, they're going to go out and tell 10 more people and 20 more people. And it's going to grow to a point to where now everybody is going to know. We have a segment called the No Zone, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, we want everybody to know that this channel is for the entire veteran military family. Veterans, it's for your aunts, your uncles, your moms, your dads, your brothers, your sisters, your little daughters and sons that want to know what dad did when he was in the military, that we have not been able to relate to them and stuff. I'm here to tell you there are some things that you can talk to your younger generation people about, your grandchildren and your children, and sometimes they don't want to hear it. They don't want to put up with it. Dad, I'm not going that place. Dad, I don't want to hear it. Dad, tell him anyway. whether, believe it or not, they're going to catch it. They're going to hear a little bit of something. They're going to look
I
at you
think
kind of
most of
weird.
them really want to
Yeah.
hear, but we really don't tell. I
Yeah.
just have a question, Jesse, because
Sure.
you said you're a retired Marines. Do Marines really ever retire?
Well, I'm retired from the workforce. I'll put it that way. But
Yeah, but you
Marines never
because I
retire.
Marines ever retire. I think you Marine the whole time until God calls you home.
And
You're
then we don't retire. Then we go out and guard the gates up there. That's what we do. That's our final deployment there is to, and it is a myth, but it is said that, that we go out and guard the pearly gates when we take on that ultimate move to go into the other world, or
different
whatever that may be.
different uniform
Different. Well,
there.
yeah,
I don't think
I
we've
won't give
got
up my blues.
think we've got
Hmm. Yeah,
the
we haven't got to
PE.
that point yet.
I think it's all dress uniforms.
Yeah, I think
We
so
got
too.
them. You
Yeah.
got to look nice.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, you got to look nice and stuff. But it's for everyone. This channel is for everyone. We want to make sure that everybody is informed. And feel free to comment if you want to comment. Unfortunately, like I said, we don't have the chat yet, but we're going to get it together. This is our number 4 session that we've made. And boy, do we have some stuff in store for you moving forward. And it's just going to be amazing. Tell your friends, subscribe to us, like our channel, pass it on to somebody else, and know and understand that, we learn from you as well. And you may not realize it, but some of you educate me and you don't even know it. That you've given me some information, and I'd like to pay that back, and do the same thing for you
Yeah.
as well too.
Leave a comment.
Yeah.
Um, let us know where you're at, what branch you served in, some of
Right.
your background. If you got a story that you want to tell, get a hold of us, tell your story, and let us know if you want us to be able to share your story. Because as we go along on this channel, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to share some stories.
Yeah.
We're going to get Jesse's whole history and how he
Eventually.
ended up in North Carolina. But obviously
Eventually.
that's 23 years, and so if we're doing this for 23 years, we
Yeah.
we might get his whole story.
So on May the 9th, we usually have with our other organization, we have what we call a little segment called the No Zone, KNOWZONE. So the No Zone is where we bring up information that people are, just stuff to know about and stuff. And we're gonna have that, put it on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and we're gonna go live. And you can join us if you want to. We have a venue that we actually have it at. If you happen to be in the North Carolina Triad area, we welcome you to join us. We'll do the announcement again next week, so you'll know that it's getting closer. But on May the 9th, which is a normal time frame that we have our nose on, we will be airing it on our YouTube channel, and we'll be talking to you, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of a live audience. If you are part of our live audience, we will give you coffees and donuts and maybe a little bit of light snacks here and there so you can kind of tune into our conversation as we talk about things that pertain to the military veteran family. So, with that being said, I really, really, really hope that you got something out of this, and you just continue to watch us because we're going to continue and we're going to get better at this, but we're going to continue to bring you a
Hopefully,
lot more.
hopefully we'll get better
We're going to get
at
better
it.
at this, so it's not, it's
we're
it's
we're,
it's a
we're
must.
going to do the Marine thing, and we're going to take that hill,
We're going to take that hill.
like it or not.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, you guys have yourself a great week, and we'll be seeing you again next Tuesday, 11 a.m. at right here, the same place, same time,
Same bat time,
same back.
same bat channel. That's
Have a
that's
blessed
good.
day.
Bye.
Bye.